It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to address you briefly today. I was asked to share with you why I choose the music I have chosen for APCE for this week. And it's a real treat to be able to do that with people who really want to know. Since most other times I'm asked that question, it's in a rather accusatory tone, usually while I'm shaking hands after a worship service. Why did you choose that song? And the question is usually followed by a comment. I didn't like it very much. It's hard to answer such a question meaningfully while 50 other people are standing in line waiting to shake my hand. But it's a conversation I actually quite love to have with people. And what I try to do is to help open them up to what I think is a better question to ask. I suggest to them that the question, do I like this song, is the wrong question to start with. The question to start with, I think, whenever I'm exposed to a new song, is a question like, what does this song teach me about who God is? What does this song teach me about who we are as those created in the image of God? Or what does this song teach me about how we can be called to live together as God's people? In its lyrics, in its melody, or in the moment experience of singing it? What can it teach us? How can it change us, transform us? If we ask those questions first, then you can ask the question, do I like this song? Most people go straight to the liking part or the disliking part way too quickly. But if you hang on for a little while, hang with those more difficult questions, struggle with them, chew on them a bit, then you can be, I think, more open to having a new song actually transform you. So why did I choose the songs I did for APCE this week? Well, there are many layers to the answer to that question. Sure, there are practical reasons. Some of them are songs I happen to know previously. Some are songs which I think are accompanied well by the instrument that I happen to play. They're songs which can be taught in a reasonable amount of time. But more significant for me are the theological reasons. And of course, I'm going to be drawn to songs which somehow reflect my own theological leanings. I'm naturally drawn to songs which somehow communicate my belief that God is not against us, but that God is for us. I'm drawn to songs which help tear walls down between people rather than build walls up. I'm drawn to songs which somehow include more expansive metaphors, more expansive language for God, along with a healthy dose of traditional metaphors as well. I'm drawn to songs which portray God in radically nonviolent terms. I, for example, was telling Tom, I think just the other day, that there's a gentleman in the church I serve who wants desperately for me to sing on a Sunday morning, "Onward, Christian Soldiers." And as long as I'm there, we will not sing any song which connects imagery of violence with who we are called to be in relation to one another as disciples. Along with that, I will also, to the best of my ability, exclude images which portray God in violent terms, even the idea of retributive justice, that God demanded violence in order for atonement to happen. I avoid those sorts of images in song as well, because I cannot reconcile the radically nonviolent life of Jesus with a perspective on Scripture which paints God through the lens of violence. I just cannot reconcile those things. So, all in all, I'm drawn to songs which help build community, songs which help create community, songs which can be a catalyst for personal and therefore corporate or shared transformation. And music can do that. Music touches the places in our hearts and in our brains which cannot be touched by just words or by sights or anything else. Music goes where nothing else can go. And something indescribable happens when a community creates that space by making music together. Church is one of the few places left in our culture where people actually sing together. Yeah, you sing the national anthem at a ball game, or sometimes you sing at a concert, but that's very, very different kind of singing. Church is where people actually sing meaningful music together. We live in a day and age when people are paid to make music for us, music which we consume. But in church, we make the music together, and we do it with each other. Liturgy is something that we do together, the work of God's people. It is about being together. It's a true community event, participation by all of God's people. And it reflects a theology that life with God is not a private matter. It's personal, yes, but it's not private. Faith is very community-oriented. It's something that we share with one another. And so I like to choose music which will become, for lack of a better expression, owned somehow by the community. Music which becomes a part of the community's expression of faith. At the end of this week, I know you're going to be leaving this hotel or the many hotels along this strip, humming some of the tunes. That will bring you back to a sense of what has happened in this sacred space in community. You'll be singing the songs. Now, there's a place for choirs in worship, absolutely, don't get me wrong here. There's times when we need to sit back and be ministered to. I think that's a beautiful metaphor for the ways in which grace can come to us and find us wherever we happen to be seated without us having to do anything. Grace comes to us that way. But still, I don't think of choirs as performance. It's just a different medium for sharing good news. But having said that, it's true that in our culture, we so love to be entertained, we so love to have things done for us, that a performance mentality can sometimes creep into our worship. I've been to worship services with praise bands, and they're excellent musicians, but not good teachers of songs. And so I'm not able to join in whatever sacred expression they seem to happen to be enjoying. It becomes an experience which I observe rather than participate in because I have not been invited in or helped into that space. I don't want a leader to perform for me. I need them. I'm relying on them to help me find a way in to whatever musical expression happens to be going on. Now, I have a confession. I'm Presbyterian, so I have a confession to make. I even sometimes catch myself as a song leader struggling to keep in check this proclivity we have for performance. I need to keep reminding myself that this is about what the community can express. It's not about me. I want to get the community singing. And I make a lot of mistakes when I'm leading. You've seen some of those mistakes. I am not a professional musician. I am not even a trained musician. I sometimes sing a little flat. You heard that fumble this morning in the middle of the song because my fingers and my head were not in sync. That happens on a regular basis. And in that moment, you know what happened in my head? There was a little voice that said, "See, you messed it up. You're no good at this." You know what that is? That's the performance temptation. So in that moment, which happened very quickly, I tried to breathe away that temptation to make it all about me and keep on doing what I've been asked to do, and that is to keep you singing. It's also true, and somebody said this to me earlier, somebody who noticed some of my mistakes. Maybe the fact that I'm a true amateur who makes mistakes but can still do a little bit of leadership can actually inspire others to learn more fully that you don't need to be a professional in order to be a leader. you can take a risk and try teaching in your own context. But for those of you who were at karaoke last night, when I sang, that was totally about performance. I should go back to the question I was asked originally, and that is, why do I choose the songs that I do? I thought it would be best to just quickly go through a couple of the songs that we've been learning this week, and I'll just speak briefly about each. The song we did today, help me to make something beautiful, a thing that reminds us there's good in the world. I love that song. The song is a prayer. It takes an individual prayer. Yeah, the singular is used in there. It's not help us, it's help me. And yet it turns it into something corporate because we're singing it together. And it's also about, the message is about helping me to make something which will be a gift to the world, which takes the individual and turns it into something community. And my goodness, help me to do something beautiful is a prayer. Isn't that a prayer we've all prayed? Isn't that the heart of who we are? It touches that place of longing and hope that God may continue in us the good work that God has begun. I also love this song because it's not a church song. It's a pop song. And it reminds me that something does not always have to say Jesus in order for it to be sacred. The Lorica, which is the I bind unto myself to be above me as high as the noonday sun, that one. The song is so singable. It's joyful. It creates joy in us when we sing it. I think it transforms us. It transforms me when I sing it. I also like that it's historical. St. Patrick's breastplate, it's an ancient prayer, and it connects us in a contemporary and modern way with such an ancient part of our Christian heritage. It points us backwards and reminds us of the church's past so that we can move forwards. I love that historical connection with that song. The APCE, amen, siakudumisa, and then the Lord's Prayer, which we tried for the first time today. Your kingdom come, your will be done, that one. When we sing music from other lands, the APCE is in Xhosa and it's from South Africa, and Munamato, the Lord's Prayer, is from Tanzania. When we sing music from other lands, we are celebrating their cultures. We're celebrating the gifts that these people give to the world. It's also a way we stand in solidarity with people from around the world. I'll never forget a moment on a Sunday morning in a church I served. This was several years ago. There was severe flooding in Malawi. Many people were uprooted. And as a way of praying for them and with them, we pulled out a song from Malawi. We learned it and we sang it together in worship. As we prayed for the people in Malawi, we sang their song. It became a deeply spiritual act to sing their music as we stood in solidarity with them in their suffering. It also reflects our evolving paradigm of mission, and that is, mission is not about something we do for other people. It's about the beautiful exchange of gifts. They give to us, we give to them, we give to each other. It's about being in partnership and sharing the good things that we have. The song that I started teaching you today, the Salam, 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 the peace of God in every place. This song cuts through the present-day political rhetoric of scapegoating and wall building, and I would say, seeks to build bridges as Jesus did. Scapegoating is a constant part of our human makeup, unfortunately. There's always been the other, the group to fear, the group who causes problems, the group who needs to be chased away or eliminated. And today, not only in the US, but also in Europe and even in Canada, albeit to a lesser visible extent, peaceful Muslims, I believe the majority of Muslims, are in many cases the present-day targets of our projection. If we can blame someone else for our problems, then we relieve ourselves of taking responsibility for our own contributions to the troubles in society. Even though this song was written by a Christian in Egypt, its use of Arabic, and even the musical intervals, which sound so different, they feel so different to our ears, this song moves us closer, I think, to seeing the other as a child of God, and anything that can move us even baby steps closer to that sort of human-to-human exchange, contact, relationship is a good thing. That's why I've been singing this song for years, and I sing it at every event because of that. One more. I'm going to talk about one more quickly. The Hallelujah that we sang just a few minutes ago, and other a cappella pieces. Sometimes in worship, we just have too much noise. I love instruments. But sometimes the wall of sound of instruments with the volume at 11 prevents me from hearing the voices of others. It prevents me sometimes from even hearing my own voice. And it's not just praise bands that do this. An organ can do that too. Our voices are the most beautiful instruments. And I hope that you hear that beauty and that you feel that beauty when we sing the Hallelujah and those harmonies wash over us. And if you have that kind of moment when we sing that song, then I want you to remind yourself that you are actually helping to create that beauty. You were a part of it. No one was doing it for you. Yes, it's a gift you receive, but it's also something that you are contributing to. To hear our own voices, to feel like we're contributing to something that is, in a way, there's a vulnerability to just hearing our own voices, and it makes us a little bit uncomfortable. And yet, you heard the result. It's stunningly beautiful just to hear the sounds of voices. The story of a woman, the last APCE I did in Orlando, is a moment I'll never forget. There's the last day, I had my bags in hand and I was leaving out the door, and this woman stopped me. She said, Hugh, I want to talk to you before you go. And I stopped and we introduced ourselves to each other, and she told me a story. She said that her whole life she believed she couldn't sing. For her whole life she believed she shouldn't sing. When she was a child in a youth choir, the music director told her not to sing, that she should just mouth the words. Do you know how long she mouthed the words? 70 years. And she said to me after APCE, she said, this is the first time I've sung in 70 years. Now, I want to make something very clear. I do not share that story to pat myself on the back at all. Not about me at all. What she reminded me of was that in the church, we're not always so good at allowing voices to be heard. I mean that in a literal way, and I mean that in a metaphorical way too. And I think that I left that conversation with a renewed conviction that if there's anything that I can do to help people find their voices in the church, and that they don't need to mouth or pretend their whole lives, then it's a good thing if we can help people find their voices. That's all I have to say. I just want to say I'm so deeply grateful to the leadership of APCE for inviting me to come back to create some moments of beauty with you. I'm honored and I'm privileged. And I'm also really grateful that for the first time you've given me the opportunity to share a little bit about what goes on in my head and in my heart in the moments when I'm leading you in song. So I want to encourage you to keep singing. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I hope you hear that beauty. And may your singing continue to transform you on a personal level, but more importantly, may it continue to transform the communities in which you find yourself. Peace be with you all.